Keith Taylor, Green MEP for the South East. How badly were you held up by these strikes and migrant action yesterday?
Well, actually, I took about an extra 4 hours. But what I think is actually it's 4 hours out of my life. It was an inconvenience, but the poor people down at Calais, it's 4 weeks or 4 months or 4 years. They're having to take desperate action to try and get to the UK.
To what extent is Calais' problem our problem in the southeast of England?
Well, it's Europe's problem. It's Europe's problem, and we had the European leaders wringing their hands when people were dying in the Mediterranean. Yeah, it's the same part. It's part of the same problem. They're now coming to Europe and seeking refuge wherever they can.
We're now feeling the kind of the impact in the southeast, of course, as well, because previously even the problem in Calais was over on the other side of the water. But yesterday this affected holidaymakers, it affected businesses, it affected drivers in the southeast of England.
Yes, that's absolutely right. I was one of them. The situation, I don't want to see people inconvenienced. But actually, there's a bigger problem there that needs to be addressed. And I think that the British government aren't doing anything to address it, not in a constructive way. Some European countries are taking extra people. But the fact is, just as much as we don't like inconvenience, these people, actually their problems are much bigger than anything, really.
So what about solutions? You mentioned some countries taking more migrants. Could that be part of the answer, or what would you like to see the British government wake up and do?
Well, I'd like to see less of a reason for people to quit their country, to leave their hometowns, to leave, many cases, their families behind. And I'd like to see that situation addressed. Now, there's a variety of ways of doing that. But the thing is, we cannot just wring our hands and say, well, no, it's nothing to do with us. It's France's problem, or it's the migrants' problem. It's our problem. And we have to find ways to work with our European partners, with the countries of departure, to identify what solutions we can.
That's obviously a long-term aspiration. That's not going to help the people that are already in Calais, in camps, and we understand the French are talking about setting up a kind of semi-permanent camp that we've not had since the years of Sangatte. What do you do about the problem in Calais, which is, of course, just across the water from Dover? It's practically on the doorstep of the southeast.
Yeah, I'm in Calais once a week usually, and I'm telling you that the conditions that the migrants are having to put up with, are unacceptable. Whether the French actually put them in tented villages, we have to make sure that they're as good as they possibly can be. Because I don't know how many of your viewers remember Norman Tebbit, a Tory minister, back in the day in the 70s, when he was talking about unemployment, and he was saying, in my day, my dad, if he didn't have any work, he'd get on his bicycle and go and find some. Well, it's the same principle. These people coming from other countries where there is no work, or where there is environment or a political unrest, they're actually doing that advice. They're following Norman Tebbit's advice. And I challenge most of the people listening to me now in the same situation would resort to the same action.
We hear that the reason for this strike, of course, was to do with the ferry operators, and there is talk of further strike action, if not soon, then over the summer months. Are we likely then to see a similar kind of situation? And besides from the strike, just the fact that there are so many migrants now, we understand around 3,000 in Calais, that this isn't going to be, yesterday's not going to have been a one-off, in other words.
I think the migrants of Calais actually took advantage of the strike. Don't think if there was the strike wasn't there and the port workers hadn't put burning tyres on the train tracks, I don't know that you'd have actually had such an incursion from the migrant people.
But we're likely, would you say, if we're going to have more strikes, how would you rate the chances that that wasn't a one-off yesterday, that this is going to happen again?
Well, the problem is there. It's not going to go away. I would like to see the port service workers finding a solution that works for them, and I would entreat my ferry company to move positively on that. Nobody wants to see inconvenience. I'm travelling again tomorrow. I've got to be in London tomorrow afternoon. I really am hoping that the journey is going to be okay. But the bigger question is, how can we resolve the migration problem?